Enshrouded is a survival role-playing game that has everything from exploration and crafting to combat and base building. It's out on early access, and with over 50 hours in the game, I think it would be good to share my honest opinion on whether this game is worth your money or not. It's also on a sale from now, March 14th to March 21st, so it's the perfect time to make a decision on whether you want the game or not. I'm going to discuss all the different features of the game that you can expect when playing so that you have a full overview of the game before you make your purchase. Let's go ahead and jump right in. So let's start with the character creator. When you start your game, you get to choose from a different set of presets that you have available for your character. These presets really can't be changed much other than you can change the hairstyle, the color of your hair. You can also change your beard and the beard color and your voice, and then you can give your character a name. But other than that, the preset that you choose is kind of what you get. You can't change any face details. You can't change body shape, height. There are no sliders or anything in the game right now. Now, keep in mind this game is in early access, so their character creator is bound to probably change and get better. So this is just kind of what you have for right now. And it's not terrible, but it's not in depth. It's not what you could expect from some of the other games that you may have played. So it's a very basic character creator. So that's something to keep in mind. Now, after you finish making your character, you're set out into the world, and it is absolutely beautiful. This game is gorgeous. You have, fog floating through the air. You have a variety of different landscapes, from green grass and meadows all the way to forests and the desert. There are a ton of different areas that you can choose not only to live, but to explore. And every biome has its own unique set of things that you can collect. So some will have copper and clay, some other areas will have tin, and all of these resources are used to better improve your character's either equipment or armor. There's new base building materials that you'll find throughout the world. So these new biomes hold a vast amount of possibilities of things that you can find, which I think is really fun because as you're exploring, you never know what you're going to find. And once you find a new resource, it unlocks all these new things for you to craft and create. I just think that it is done very well in this game, and I really do enjoy it while I'm playing. Another thing about the world that I love is the sounds. I'll maybe just take a moment to pause so you can kind of hear the birds chirping in the environments around us, but let's take a listen. I can't say enough good things about the graphics and the way the game looks. It just really does hit the mark for me personally. Now let's talk about questing and storyline. Enshrouded has an absolutely fantastic storyline. You're basically a Flameborn, which is the last of this race, and you set out into the world in order to find other survivors and restore the beauty of your kingdom. And as you find other survivors, they will provide you with storyline quests that help you to continue on experiencing not only the world or different things that you need to find. The questing is done so well in this game. It's very easy to follow. The only thing I will say is that the quest menu and the map is a little bit difficult to read. We do have a roadmap that was just released recently, but the roadmap for 2024 does show that they are making changes to improve the quest menu and also the map. So I don't foresee that being a big issue soon or as we move forward. But for right now, it is something I want you to be mindful of. It can be a little bit confusing if you're trying to figure out what quest to do or where you are on your map. Now, in addition to questing, while you're out exploring the world, you will find books and little papers or scrolls lying around with this like red fog around them. Those pages are either lore that you can read, or they'll unlock a new kind of like side quest that you can use to go find chests or something else in the world. So I say all of this to say that there are a ton of things to do, and after 50 hours in the game, I'm not even close to finishing the main storyline. I love it. It's immersive, it's in depth, and then all of the little sideline quests keep you busy as well. So let's talk about combat and bosses. In addition to regular world combat such as like wolves or bees or other things that are just around in the world, you also will be entering into the Shroud. And the Shroud is this like really grungy, nasty, moldy area with all of these different bosses and enemies that you will fight. They continue to get harder or bigger as time goes on and as you fight more difficult bosses. But combat in general is done really nicely in this game. Something about fighting feels very smooth and elegant. I don't really know how to describe it, but you can dodge very easily. You can switch between your tools very easily or your weapons. And I really do enjoy fighting in this game. And I also feel like they've done combat in a way that is beginner friendly. It may not be the most beginner friendly, but once you start to understand how to fight and what you need to do with your weapons, it does get easier and it's enjoyable. It's a very enjoyable combat experience. So I really like it. I think a good way to maybe make a comparison with combat is if you've played Nightingale versus Enshrouded. Nightingale's combat system to me feels very clunky for some reason. Like I just feel like it's not very easy to fight, versus Enshrouded is just smooth. It's very, very smooth. And I feel like most people who decide to play the game, whether you're used to combat or not, can adjust pretty quickly to the combat system. And as I mentioned, bosses are insane. They also aren't necessarily easy to beat. Like you're going to have to figure out what the weakness is of this boss that you're fighting. And you can either work together with your friends or by yourself to try to figure out what's the best way to defeat the boss. And I really like that because it's not just run up, slash, or shoot or whatever at this boss. You actually have to find the weaknesses or the loophole in order to defeat them. And although it does add a layer of difficulty, I do think it's a good way to keep you entertained and thinking all the time about new ways to kind of like fight and defeat bosses. So let's talk about the level of difficulty. I kind of touched on it just a moment ago, but the level of difficulty when it comes to this game, in my personal opinion, it's somewhere between beginner to moderate. It's not too hard and it's not too easy. You are going to have to kind of adjust and figure out what's the best kind of like combat or fighting style for you. Again, combat will take a little adjusting, but you also have the building and crafting system, which is unique in many ways compared to other survival games. So there are learning curves, but in a good way. The more you practice and the more that you play, the better you get at it. And it gets much easier as time goes on. Now, with that being said, let's talk about the skill tree. So taking a look at this skill tree, it is massive. There are so many different types of builds that you can choose to go with. I feel like there are three main areas that you can kind of delve into, which is either somewhere in the mage area, a ranger slash assassin, or a tank slash warrior. Now keep in mind, this skill tree does require some thought and it is meant to be modified and developed to your play style. So me personally, I am more of a long range wizard or mage build type of person. That's normally what I'd go for in a game like this. But because I'm playing mainly multiplayer in this game right now, I have started to dive into the healer skill tree just to help out with healing my teammates when we're running around and playing in the game. So it's kind of an example of how you can modify your play style depending on whether you're playing multiplayer or solo. But really the most important thing you want to focus on your skill tree is making sure you're picking the best line for your combat play style. So lots of different things to choose from, but I have to say I love the idea of being able to choose to be anybody that you want to be in this game. And there are so many different combos of combat styles that you can play with. It's just really, really enjoyable. I've been enjoying this part of the game very much. Now let's talk about crafting. Crafting is done very well in this game. There are some gripes that I have with it, but overall it is very nice. So you can craft from your character kind of anywhere in the world. You can craft certain things. And there are other things that you'll use the workbench to create. Also, as you unlock other survivors, you can craft things with them as well. So to kind of make a long story short, you can craft a lot of different things in this game, and they can be crafted with multiple different either people or tools that you will find as you get further along in the game. But overall, it is very easy. You can kind of scroll through the menu and see what you want to craft. It tells you exactly how many resources that you'll need. You can also pin a recipe for whatever you're trying to craft to your main screen, like when you're playing, so you can see how much of this resource you need to gather in order to make whatever you're trying to craft, which I find very, very helpful. I love that. So I think the crafting menu overall is very user-friendly and it's done in a way that's like intuitive and makes sense. So very good. I love the crafting menu. Now that leads me to my next point, which is building. And building in this game, we're gonna have to talk about this because building in this game is very cool, very unique, but it is a bit of a learning curve. So let me start by saying you can build anywhere and build anything. There are literally almost no limitations to what you can make in this game, and that to me is a win in of itself. So as you progress through the main storyline, you will get a construction hammer, which helps you to build different structures, like the structures I've already mentioned. You can choose to build like a regular house. You can also terraform. You can terraform deep into the ground. You can make a hobbit hole. You can build a cliff if you want to. You could build a mountain. You can do anything. But in order to do that, you really have to understand the menu. There are different categories and blocks and different types of structures you can use to build or terraform whatever you really want to make. So I would definitely say take some time to do some test builds. If you aren't familiar with a build system like this, don't try to build anything too grand because it's just going to lead to frustration and you might end up quitting. What I would suggest is try to build something very simple to start out, or to use an area to just test building different structures so that you can get a feel for what building is like in the game. There is a ton of furniture that you can craft. The furniture, you can get furniture from saving different survivors that come with their own set of different things. Again, I don't want to go too much in detail with it to spoil the storyline, but you do get a variety of furniture to choose from that you can use to decorate the interior of your base. It's a 1000 out of 10 for me. So let's swing over to multiplayer. Multiplayer is done well. It's done well. I don't even think that there's much about the multiplayer feature that I would change. I've been playing with two of my friends. We stream the game multiple times a week, and it has been a seamless process. We haven't run into too many glitches or bugs. The way that multiplayer is set up in this game is that you can play with one character. Well, for one, you can make multiple different characters if you want to, but let's just say you have one character that you play with mainly, and you can play on your own save by yourself, or you can use that exact same character and join a server with your friends, and you won't lose any progress. You pick up exactly where you left off. You can bring resources from your main save to your multiplayer server and share those with your friends. You can also take whatever you find when you're out playing with your friends and bring it back to your main save. So it is really, really so well done. I love that you don't lose any progress or have to create a whole new character to join someone else's server. I also love that we can quest together. Now, there are some things about the questing that you may or may not like depending on who you are, but you quest as a group. So this is great if you are playing with maybe 1 to 4 people, but if you're playing with up to 16 people like these servers allow, then questing individually would be more of a benefit. I think they are looking into possibly trying to do this in the future. I'm not exactly sure about that, but what I can tell you is that overall, it is a very enjoyable experience, and I actually prefer playing with friends because of how this multiplayer is set up. So I highly recommend giving it a try. Now, lastly, let's talk about replayability. I think this is a really important part to touch on with games because when purchasing a game, sometimes you can just play through it once and then you're done. However, with Enshrouded, you could play as much as you want. I mean, if I'm being honest, with the skill tree that allows you to choose to be whoever you want to be combat-wise in the game, you can play with as an archer, or in your next save, you could decide to explore the mage tree, or you could be a tank. Like I mentioned earlier. So being able to test out all of these different builds with your character is amazing. And with a storyline and a questing system as good as the one in Enshrouded, it is very easy to just want to jump back in and experience it all over again. I think that this is one of those games that you could replay over and over as many times as you want. So I think that, again, that's something important to take into consideration when you're spending your money. I also believe with their roadmap, there are some new things coming with the questing and the storyline as well. So things are only going to get better for this game. So again, you can replay it, I think, as many times as you want. I don't think that this game will get boring for people who love it anytime soon. So definitely something to keep in mind. So if you can't tell already, I highly recommend Enshrouded. If I had to give it a rating out of 10, it would be a 9.5. Only because of the character creator. I think if they added an in-depth character creator into this game, it would literally be untouchable. This may be one of my top games for 2024. I am just absolutely loving playing it. I love playing it with my friends, and I can't recommend it to enough people. Now, with that being said, make sure you comment below and tell me your favorite thing about Enshrouded if you're playing, or if you have any questions, please let me know. I'd be happy to answer them for you. And if you've enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. And until next time, I will catch you all in the next one. Peace!